I got a message yesterday at like midday from the Ruby de Rose site. The message was something like, fuck my pussy boy, pussy boy, pussy boy, fuck my pussy boy, make me feel alright. Fuck my pussy boy, pussy boy, pussy boy, fuck my pussy boy, nice and good like tonight. Come on down to my hometown. Let me show you around before we get down. Fuck my pussy boy tonight. It literally said that, word for word. Not lying, not even a little bit. And it was only $10. And I didn't, open it, but, I figured, man, that site's got it really figured out, because it's AI now, But, and like I said, I'm unsubscribed, so, the site is like, the host site, and they probably have like videos and stuff so the uploaders, content creators can get up to speed. This is how you get paid. This is what you expect. This is what you can post. This is what you can't. And this is how it works, So now that I'm unsubscribed, this is what I suspect is going to happen. The site takes a cut, of all the purchases that are made, every dollar that's made, from the uploader. So the site will get a cut of the $9.99. But even though I'm unsubscribed, I'm going to call them tomorrow, at like 10 a.m. so I can hopefully catch a time zone. Regardless of what time zone they're in, it'll be like, all right. Monday through Friday, so hopefully there's at least a chance that I get somebody in America, as opposed to like nights and weekends where they might outsource it to overseas, to people who don't care as much. Generally speaking. But I suspect that I'll still get charged. I want to get some sort of like confirmation number, and, put it on my calendar. Because I've got multiple calendars, as far as stuff that I keep track of, and I've also got notebooks, for like budgets and expenses and what I spend money on and this, that, and the other, just so I kind of have an overview picture of that. When did I do this? Did I order something? When should it show up? I just mark it on the calendar, blah, 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 so I don't forget. And you kind of get a picture, of how things work. And I suspect that I will, so my next billing cycle, it will show $9.99. Okay, funky dunky, hunky dory. But then I also suspect that I will be charged $19.99 because I think that that's just the way, scum tends to work. And it's not going to be worth it to me to fight that, because it's like they just stole that money from me. But if I wanted to like go through the legal means, it would be too much effort, time and money. So they know that they could just charge me that. That's what I suspect. I'll keep you posted, see if I'm right. Because they've probably got this figured out, an algorithm. Probably just the site does, Ruby de Rose, quote unquote, because that's probably not her real name. It shouldn't be. If she's smart. Which is probably not. So they've got it figured out, okay, that people will subscribe anywhere from 1 month, to 6 months. But people, if the whole site is set up like that, maybe they have the option where you could interact with them. But, the ones that are set up like Ruby has it set up, people are going to figure out pretty quick, even the simps, because they're going to realize, could you dress up in a cat suit, so they're going to realize, so they're not going to stick around for more than like 2 or 3 months, if their site is set up the way Ruby has it set up. So they know, that the AI, that, as I've said, the whole act now, it's like, shit. I think Ben is the only one who would fall for that shit. Brian wouldn't, but Ben would. Nobody else would, Pretty much Ben is the only one who would stick around for like 2 months. Brian, he'd figure it out, and everybody else, would figure it out within like 1 to 2 days, So that's how the AI is set up to work it for people who run their channel or page or whatever you'd call it, like Ruby does, where it's just passive. She doesn't really interact with people. So, $10. I should respond, lower that down to $1 and we got a deal. Maybe I will, just to see what it comes up with. Because I still got, like 25 days or whatever, But anyway, that's what I suspect is going to happen with that, is they're gonna steal $19.99. And then if it keeps happening, then I'll have to like call the credit card company. Well, I'll call them and say, what's going on here, And then I'll also call like the credit card company, because I don't want it to affect like my credit score, But because that could be something that could be a problem later down the road. Because if you owe people money, you need to, pay that off. If people are stealing your money, that's different, So you could cancel your credit card and get in contact with like the credit bureau or whatever it is, those 3 credit reporting agencies. But these people are all, hard to get a hold of, and especially now with AI, especially now that we're kind of in the transition phase, that, you need to watch your ass, man. Be careful what you get tangled up in, because you might not be able to get out of it, because you absolutely cannot get a hold of a human being. You would have to find their headquarters, and travel to the location and walk into their goddamn office building, And even then, it's probably like, okay, you open this door and then press a buzzer. What's your business here? I can't, they keep stealing my money. They're not allowing me to cancel my subscription. You got to do that through the website, sir. And pretty soon that'll even be AI. Let's see what I can help you with, and all that faggot shit. They give it all these human characteristics. I'd almost just have it be, it's still the same shit that it always was, command promptville or whatever, but now it's got like character and personality, I'm sorry to hear that. Let's see what we can do to get that resolved. It's the same fucking shit, just extra faggot fucking shit, and then the voice sounds more human. So, weak people make weak times, man. Everybody's so on board, to get rid of all their expenses, Everybody's going to be unemployed and shit. I don't see why people just can't work and make a living. It's a sustainable system. But the CEOs and the higher ups, they want to get rid of everybody, kick them to the street. And like I said, when we're in the transition period, there's going to be a lot of unemployed people. That whole you will have no money, no possessions, and you will be happy. Obviously, that's bullshit, but in the meantime, people still need money and possessions, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people, who are going to be, what's the word, in dire straits or whatever, because the company they were working for just let everybody go, or 90% of the workforce, because it was taken over by, AI or autonomous vehicles or whatever. And like I said, I don't see this shit being sustainable. But something will go on the fritz. I overheard something like they wanted to implement AI, air traffic control, ATC. And it reminds me of Terry Papepetit when they were in like some sort of briefing, and some, cocksucker, not really a military man, but a career military man, was laying out some sort of plan, and he piped up and he was like, "Somebody's gonna die." And that's the first thing that just popped into my head when I heard that on like NPR radio. And I guess they opted for the regular system, and it's like it's all fine and good until that one time, because humans still have the ability to like see things and comprehend stuff, and it's just even though AI may be a lot better in a lot of ways, like you can train the computer to beat the world's best chess player in 10 seconds and stuff. It's like that's all fine and good, but you still need to be able to recognize situations that are unfolding, the tone in someone's voice, or the fact that somebody didn't respond or something, you know what I mean? You gotta have that human touch, that intuition, I guess would be the word, in a lot of things. And I think air traffic control would be one of those things, And it's technology. Sometimes technology glitches out, I mean, yeah, there's that whole human error factor, but it's like when technology fails, it fails big time, So, anyway. And secondly, I ordered a new credit card the other day. Same number, it's just the numbers are fading because they weren't like the raised kind. So I cashed out my points on all my other credit cards, and the one I just applied towards my bill. The other one I used my points, for on Amazon purchases, so they're like non-existent anyway. The other one, my bill was only like $140, and I had like $540 in points. So if I were thinking, I would have asked, can I just apply that, month after month, towards that bill? But I was planning on that being, like my last bill for that credit card. So I opted, can I cash it out? Now, I was talking to Apu, so I wasn't about to give Apu my any bank information, because it's been proven somehow that, the majority of the scams in this world come from Abu, 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 Abu. I want to be careful for fascist tubes, so, pick up what I'm laying down so they don't, flag me for... But the way it works is Abu, 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 Abu prays to a pachydermian beast with, like 6 arms or some shit like that. But their value system is based on fucking people over, That's like their reason for getting out of bed in the morning. That determines whether or not, you're like, a productive, successful human being or not. So even if you live in Abu, 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 Abuville, or you're just Abu, 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 Abu in America, let's say you have a kid, when he comes home from school, and you say, "Hey, double, double, gobble, double, gobble, 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 gobble. How much money did you bring home today?" And he says, Daddy, I fucked a senior citizen, a little old lady, out of her Social Security services. "Oh, that's a good boy now. Not good to do your homework, so you be good, smart boy." And you can, accuse me of shit, but it's empirical, you know what I mean? More so than, Zimbabwe, or Russia, or here in America, Abba dabba gabba 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 who do kindly do this, yes sir, kindly do this, kindly do that. That's just kind of who they are, And start paying attention to that. Next time you go into a 7-Eleven, if it's run by Abba, 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 gobble, gobble, you'll notice that there's no prices on the shelves. Now, I don't know, if that's something that, because it's scanned like with the barcode, right? So I don't know if it's like predetermined. I'm going to assume it is, or if they could like, change that day by day or, whatever. Versus if you go to any other, 7-Eleven, there's the prices right there. So just try it for yourself. I'm right. So, Anyway. So it was supposed to, I don't know if they meant, like 7 to 10 business days or 7 to 10 general days. I neglected to ask. And I'll have to look on my calendar when I made that call, but, again, I'm going to call them and be like, where is it? I gave them like my name and address, just basic information. And because it's points, I'm not sure if it might be different. But, if someone mails you a check in the mail, and you don't get it, the way it works is you call them, they void that check, and they write another check, like electronically in the system, Unless you get some piece of shit, bank teller or some sort of check cashing service, that is like, low-level garbage. If someone intercepts a check, generally they can't just go cash it, But, so I'll ask them, did you send it? Yeah, because I got 0 points now. Was it cashed? Most likely they'll say, I'm sorry, sir, we don't have the ability to know that information. So I'll just be like, all right, thanks. So I'm just not going to get those points. They're just gone, is what it sounds like. And let her respond, him or her. But if they do have that ability and they say it was cashed, they'll say, well, it wasn't me, so it was either me or one of you guys. So. And be polite, but, anyway. So that's what I expect from that, just because things are such shit. So, anyway, that's all I got to say. Just a quick little note. And there was no message as of today, so. But I was gonna troll Ruby, but I didn't think, it was her, right? So instead, I'm gonna troll the AI. Lower that video down to $1 and we got a deal. Otherwise, I'm walking. So, well, I'm already unsubscribed, so I'm sure that's in the system, So, but I don't know. Anyway. Maybe I'll just be honest. I'll be like, look here, you AI dingbat. I'm already unsubscribed. Now, I suspect, that your host site is going to screw me over and steal the $19.99, even though I'm already subscribed. That's what I suspect, little Miss AI. But I'll tell you what. You send me a video of you squeezing a tennis ball between your ass cheeks, and offer it up to me for $1. I'll subscribe for 3 months. See what it does. So, anyway.